Good evening. I'm Dan Eastgate, President of the Bismarck School Board. It's 5:15 on Monday, August 10th. I call this meeting to order. Welcome and thank you to everybody for joining us tonight here at the Tom Baker Room and also online. For anyone wishing to follow along with us this evening, you can find our agenda under the School Board tab at bismarckschools.org. Dr. Johnson, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Auckland.
Here.
Dr. Jonas.
Here.
Mrs. Peterson.
Here.
Ms. Presky.
Here.
Mr. Eastgate.
Here. All board members are present and accounted for. Dr. Fosnat, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1C is the BPS mission, vision, and values. The BPS mission is to empower every learner to thrive. The BPS vision states together, our strong relationships build inclusive, collaborative, and innovative environments that create agency and inspire a passion for learning, excellence, and discovery. The BPS values are inclusion, excellence, innovation, and leadership. You can also find a link in the agenda to the BPS strategic plan. Item 2 is to adopt the agenda. What are the wishes of the board?
Mr. Eastgate,
Yes.
if I may.
Yeah.
Before you adopt the agenda, I'd like to ask the board to consider removing item 7F off of your consent agenda. Just administratively, we don't need it anymore, so you don't need to approve it.
Okay. Thank you.
I would move to adopt the agenda while removing 7F off of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Johnson.
Mr. Auckland.
Yes.
Dr. Jonas.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Ms. Presky.
Yes.
Mr. Eastgate.
Yes. Motion passes. Item 3, focus on success. Oh,
Mr. President,
I'm sorry.
do we need to, oh,
She approved
never
it.
mind. Okay.
She approved it while removing it. We're approving the rest of the consent agenda. Yep. Thank you. Item 3, focus on success. Dr. Fosnan, I believe we have 3A, introduction to Infinite Campus.
Yeah, I'd like to bring up to the podium today 3 people. Before I let them have the mic and share their presentation, you're going to see Ms. Amanda Meyer, LDI Director, which you've seen before. Mr. Casey Mueller, which many of you are aware of. He's a blessing to BPS for many years since he was a teenager. And Ms. Danica Nelson, who is our Student Support Services Director, all of which I would tell you we would not be rolling out IC the way we are to our families and our students. We might even say we might not be doing that well across the state if it wasn't for these 3 people. So there you go. There's your introduction, Ms. Meyer.
Welcome.
Good evening, President Eastgate and members of the board. As Dr. Fosnat said, we are here this evening to provide you and our community an update as we have transitioned to a new student information system. Through the North Dakota K-12 Data Modernization Project, Bismarck Public Schools has moved from several longstanding systems into Infinite Campus, and we're here to share with you this evening. So before we go too far, what is a SIS for anybody that hasn't been living in our transition world? A SIS, a student information system, is essentially a student information warehouse. All of our addresses, grades, anything that has a district operation is connected to our student information system. And what does it impact when we change from one system to the next? On the screen, you will see that it impacts almost every district operation. So under instruction, it's going to impact our grade books, our learning management systems, our curriculum integrations, and some reporting processes for our assessments and our transcripts. Under student services, it impacts attendance, discipline, our special education, EL, and 504 plans. Under daily operations, it impacts, and some of you may have already experienced this, how we register kids, how we communicate our schedules, our transportation, our food services, our athletics, and the way that we collect fees, our health services, and even our safety plans. For a family that's watching this evening, what are you experiencing? You're experiencing us asking you to have a new parent portal. For a student, we're asking you to go somewhere new to get the information that you want. And our mass communications, you're probably experiencing a change. And finally, just daily district operations, state reporting, how we're going to do some accountability things, and even some HR and data security has changed. In addition, these are the systems that have went from one place to the next. We talk in education a lot in words that don't always make sense, so hopefully this helps. When I say transition to Infinite Campus, what that used to be is Power School. It's 25 years, actually. So think back to what you were doing in 2000, 2001, what the world might have looked like. We're trying to move 25 years worth of that work into this new system. In addition, something called TINET was retired, and we're moving into Infinite Campus. Bright Arrow was an integration for our communication. We're moving into Infinite Campus, and so on down the list. You will see that for the public, our nutrition system is not impacted at this time. So for those of you that would like to put money in your child's lunch account, you're still going to do that in Link. Who is impacted? As you're probably getting a theme here, everybody. So our teaching staff is impacted, our secretaries are impacted, our substitute teachers are impacted because the way that they get into a system is going to look a little different. And all the way around the circle there, you can see who has experienced a little bit of change in their life. And I'm going to invite Mr. Mueller up now, and he's going to dig into exactly what our community is probably most interested in knowing for first day of school operations.
Thank you. Good evening. So as Amanda mentioned, everything has changed, and everything that you can think about does plug into our former system, Power School, and now we are trying to get that figured out in Infinite Campus. With all of that change, what we're trying to make sure of is that we have a smooth transition for families so that they don't have to worry and be obstructed by all of that change that's going on under the hood, so to speak. So for parents and students, again, they have a separate portal. Child nutrition, they'll be using Link, which is what they had in the past. Transportation, last year we had Stop Finder as well. We'll continue with that. And the communication system that we used, parents will still get messages, but it will be from a different platform within Infinite Campus. I'll go into each of those real briefly. Again, Child Nutrition Link I'll cover here. They'll continue that going forward. Some behind the scenes and where we're at with parent and guardians. They will be using the new parent app, which they can get out of their Apple store, their Android store. And so far, since July 29th, there have been approximately 32,000 logins from parents and approximately 30,000 from students. Now, you should stop me and say, how's that possible? We don't have that many parents and that many students. Well, believe it or not, schedules are extremely sacred and very important for these families. So what we did is we tried to roll out in a phased way. Starting on July 29th with Century High, we rolled just that school and kept going from there, trying to help us adopt the new app and help parents get familiar with the thinking to getting into that system. And along the way, parents and students were certainly doing the refresh game, trying to get that schedule figured out. So that is why that count is so high. Some patterns, though, we're still working through things with families, trying to get email figured out to make sure that they can get in. Maybe they have the wrong email. Maybe something didn't transfer right from Power School. We're working with those families daily to get that figured out. And then back to the data migration, some things with household contacts that need to be updated. Each family can go into the app themselves and update that information, whether it's their phone number or other things. And our secretaries have been so wonderful on making sure this information has been validated before the first day of school. So overall, it seems like we've had a good rollout with that. Obviously not perfect, but we're getting there. Transportation. So yeah, last year we introduced Stop Finder, obviously some bumps and hurdles with that. We're getting better, working to refine that. Overall, we're looking to be able to use it as a great communication tool for parents and families so that they can see the routes of their students and see when the bus arrives at school or arrives at home so they can know that their student is safe. This slide does talk about all the finders, we call them. One thing that will help, we hope, this year with the accuracy of Stop Finder is Wayfinder. The buses at our contractor Harless will be leveraging Wayfinder itself instead of some middleware like it did last year. So the short of that is less things in the middle of making sure that data can flow to make sure we have accurate information for Stop Finder to function. Stop Finder, we did send that out on last Friday, and I believe our counts are working their way up on people getting into that as well, so that's good news. Other things that we have been doing with our finders, with Harlow's, we do a lot of bus conduct reports and sometimes safety videos to make sure that things are tracking the way they need to. We worked with Harlow's and with our Bismarck schools teams to make sure that we're finding some efficiencies in that versus old paper and pencil options. One last on transportation, there's many things going on. Making sure that our staff can find the bus routes. They used to be in Power School. Right now, because we've been moving so fast with Infinite, we're trying to make sure that for day one, we can do attendance and grades and schedules. We don't have our transportation information in Infinite yet. So we are leveraging something called Viewfinder, which our staff can get into, especially secretaries and principals, so they can know that their students are safe on the bus. And last, communication. So we have moved on from a different communications platform because within Infinite, I sometimes think of it like the Swiss Army knife. It has many different things. It does have a messenger platform, so we're leaning into that and going to start leveraging that. Within Infinite, there's something called an inbox that parents will be able to use, which is not your email and not a text message, but something within. Maybe someday that'll help us on the instruction side where we can start doing some communication right out of the classroom. We're learning more about that. Where does that leave us with all the other communication tools that exist? Well, we're still working on trying to unify and working towards reviewing where we're at with those things. And with that, Danica, if you're willing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So in an earlier slide, we had talked about that the special education forms platform that we used to use was called TINET. And so as we're moving out of TINET into Infinite Campus, the role of a special education teacher stays the same, but how they do business is going to be completely changing. That is also the same for our Section 504 forms. The beautiful thing that Infinite Campus is offering is that in the past, we weren't able to have our special education forms live in Power School, and so we will be having one unified system. So as an administrator, I can log in, I can look up the special education forms, I can look up the Section 504 forms, and I'll be able to see the information that I may have had multiple logins in previously. So the state is still currently working on data migration. A decision that we made a few years ago, which we are greatly appreciating, is that we moved from paper records into electronic records. And so our document lock system is really going to be helpful to be able to have all of our documents electronic, where we can copy and paste if we need to, or move that over into new platforms. So super grateful about decision makers and decisions that were made that are impacting us currently. I would also contribute that the collaboration between our State Department and us, they've been really receptive to calling in and saying, hey, can we make this tweak? What does this look like? And so really moving that forward. So from a special education standpoint, BPS is ready to go. We're actually starting training with our team leads and any special education teachers that want to come in starting tomorrow. And so I feel like we're in a very good spot when it comes to that. Flags are in for our staff also. So any staff, teachers, secretaries, they'll be able to see our warning signs. And really the work ahead is just trying to help people get comfortable with a change. And so systems are built, we're ready, training's getting deployed, and we're excited about the work ahead and hopefully finding the streamlined benefits that will be coming with the switch for us. So as we think about what have we completed, the data migration, for the most part, we have completed transportation routes, child nutrition's ready to go, master schedules are up and running, and our online registration is being executed probably hourly right now. We're bringing new kids in all the time. Access access. We're still working through that. And so that is always in progress. The special education migration from the old TINET system into Infinite Campus. And honestly, from our perspective, if that doesn't happen for us, we're still going to be ready day one. So not worried about that. Schedule changes. I believe all 3 high schools will be having individuals come in this week and create those schedule changes and try to find the right fit for students, and then attendance and academic progress notifications are still in progress. So ongoing, our training and support, our special education implementation, exploring capabilities. Every day we're finding new buttons or new ways to alert, and then trying to put processes to those, and then system alignment. So comfortable with how our training plan looks for new staff, knowing that new staff, this isn't going to be a huge change, and then a very supportive training plan, professional learning for our existing teachers and veteran teachers as we move forward. So decisions that, as I said, were made in the past, document lock, some of those pieces that have really helped us move probably further than others right now have been very beneficial. And then lastly, just wanted to take a time to praise and give credit where it's deserved. Our technology team has done tremendous work with a few, right? So when we talk about the small department, the work that they've done, the project management that has come out of technology has just been outstanding. Our secretaries, they are the ones probably impacted the most in our admin assistants with this change. And so they have dove in, they've come in July when they might not have been working, and they're going to be answering a lot of questions in the future. So just wanted to give a huge shout out, our learning design and instruction team with all of the standards building and everything that goes involved with a grade book. That has been a huge lift, and they've done a tremendous job. And then the student support service team, just getting trainings designed and thinking through, one day we played the game, what has changed or what's staying the same, and we didn't have anything on our list. So the entire world process and procedure has changed. But what's the most beautiful thing about it is the amount of collaboration that has happened between all of our departments. If it's HR, working with the secretaries to get that training platform, technology, LDI, and student support services, that's really where the magic has happened. So very thankful for everybody that dove in and said, here we go. Goodbye, Power School. Bring on Infinite Campus. So I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Board members, questions? Board Member Presky.
Thank you. So I saw the number of logins by students and parents, but I guess I'm just kind of curious, do we know a percentage of the total families in the BPS system that have completed this process of going in and registering so that they are ready to get the messages and be in the system?
Very good question. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but obviously something we would track to make sure we don't leave anybody behind and make sure that people feel comfortable getting into that app. I think the thing to realize too is I don't know that we were ever at 100% parent app utilization back in Power School, but this should be simpler, we hope. And the other good thing overall, good or bad, Bismarck isn't going at this alone. The rest of the state of North Dakota is at this, so this will be a learning process as we go forward, but certainly tracking the adoption of the app.
Yeah, that's the other point that I wanted to make, is that this isn't just a BPS changeover. This is something that really the whole state is making the change at the same time, just so our parents know, why are you throwing something new at us? It's really something that has had to change over across the state. Thank you.
Yeah, and building on that, and even with what Danica said, of course, our teams locally have been amazing. But partners around the state are experiencing the same exact thing. And I think to Danica's point of how we've all banded together to find our way through this. It's brought some of us closer than we've ever been as far as solving a problem and working on doing the best thing for kids and teachers so we can be up and running for the first day of school. So appreciate everybody with that.
Thank you. Mr. Auckland.
Ms. Prescott, I think that's an excellent question due to seeing what is happening right now versus what will happen on the first day of school and how many people might be trying to get in. Besides, you'd mentioned, email changes, the household or contact changes. Have you been running into any other, common support themes that you're tracking and able to respond to? And then on top of that, is the support going well? You guys feeling overwhelmed, or, you're saying the secretaries and everybody just trying to make sure everybody's feeling, we're able to feel them, we're able to keep up so far?
Great question. One other theme that it didn't make the board, looking in on our own Bismarck school staff, one challenge that we just didn't see coming, but we're already feeling like we're in a good place with it, more to come. BPS staff that have students in the system. Because of the way Infinite is designed, we've got about 250 or 300 of those staff that we need to collect a personal email from so that they can get into the app. We're working on that. I think we're getting through that. There'll certainly be more as people start making their way back into the schools. To the support structures, thankfully, Bismarck has had some experience with a lot of calls in the past, and we were able to stand up a call center, so to speak, out of our central office all the way back into early July, thanks to Stacy and HR and our secretaries and staff at CAB. That really helped us make sure that we were ready for the waves of support calls that would be coming in. Remember, we released with Sentry first, and then slowly after that, and lo and behold, every time we did that, there was a little wave that came on. So our secretaries out in the field too, to say that they haven't had some stresses and needed to work a little extra, they have, and thankfully, to their benefit, they were able to come in a little bit earlier this year, like Danica mentioned, and I think that's helped them with some comfort and ease as well. We did meet with principals the other day at district leadership, and I think overall it was nice and welcome that they can get in and start looking around and see where they're at. The truth of it is, I think the same will be true when the teachers come back. There will be some that are very quick to learn and have really dove in. And then there will be others that we just need to help, and that's okay. So that speaks to the structure of where we're at for support.
Well, thank you. Working in technology for over 30 years, I'd assume there'd be some support calls, and I'm glad to hear you guys are able to address it. I also like to thank you for all the work you've done with it. I've certainly been following the Infinite Campus, Power School Infinite Campus for some time, and thank you to Mr. Kuntz and the communications and everything that have been going out. All of you have been doing exemplary work, so thank you very much.
Ms. Peterson.
Thanks, President Eastgate. And I'm not sure if this question is for Casey or if maybe it's for Dr. Fosnat, but wondering, part of what you alluded to, Casey, was talking about the call center, and that was something that had been instituted last year with some of our transportation hiccups, if you will. And I just was wondering, and now that I really appreciated the slide on that, and yet I know we're not at the first day of school yet, and that was when we kind of were surprised by some of those kinds of components. How is the team feeling about the way that the app is working, the way that it's supposed to work, kind of some of the assurances and the things that you guys have been putting in place? How do you feel like we're gonna address some of those with the rollout? Because I know that was something that was unanticipated last year and caught us off guard.
Ms. Peterson, great question. I'll let Casey take the technical question about the app. Yes, did we learn last year during transportation rollout? And really, that was to everybody. So we flooded everybody at the same time with a message. You heard incremental. We learned from our lesson on that, do things incrementally. And then we propped up a call center with real phones, just like around a table, like here, to try responding to messages. And we did similar. You'll see that at our office now. There's kind of one set up waiting for people. But we also, technology helps us. We can roll phone calls to other phones around the district. And I think what we learned last year is when things have changed or like this, when they're big scale, right? We know that ebbs and flows will happen. The most important thing we can do is have a human answer the phone. Have a human answer the phone, help people out, take a ticket. We have a really robust ticketing system. Take a ticket, tell people like, we're going to get to the right person, we're going to get back to you. And that goes a long way. So I think that was a lesson. I will tell you, I think the app, and I've only seen, I'm not a parent. I am a parent. I just don't have kids in school. I don't have to have the app now, but I would tell you, I think the app is much more robust than the Power School app. So there's a good reason for parents, and to Ms. Presky, your point, really, if you're a parent and you live in the confines of North Dakota, you should be downloading the app tonight. You should be on the App Store getting it because it's that important. So I'll let you address out, what do you think, any technical issues with the rollout and the app itself?
Yeah, and to any technical issues with the app, I think obviously we built on our experiences last year, and we did push that app out again on Friday, or at least the notification that families have busing. We actually did a little early message, a preview message in July to help us make sure data was more accurate. That was some of the lesson from last year as well. Bad data in and bad data out, the Stop Finder app can't work as well as we would hope it to. And one other thing, spoke to it earlier, we've worked with our partner Harlow's to make sure that the middleware, the middle hardware that was handling the GPS data, we've now enabled them to use Wayfinder and removed one variable out of that equation. So a little bit of the jury's out, but I think we're going to be in a better place from where we were last year. Yep.
Board members, any other? Dr. Fosnot?
I guess if there's no other questions, do you have a comment before I?
If I
round it
may.
out? Yes, you go ahead.
So both of these very humble leaders credited some other people, and so I just want to take the opportunity. When you're in a big change process, you look for the helpers and the historians, and these two people check both those boxes. They know more about BPS systems than me for sure, but many, many others, and so the background, the history, their ability to walk us through processes that used to exist so that we can recreate them in a new system is invaluable, and then their ability to lead their people. They both have incredible teams, and it's been nothing but a privilege to work with these two in this process, especially being newer to Bismarck. So just want to give them the credit that they deserve.
They're
And
outstanding.
thank you for having us.
Yes. Outstanding team. I'll start with my last bullet, I guess, is outstanding team. It's been amazing since the transition. This has not been months. This has been years in the making. So we knew about this last spring of 25. So we've been working on this a while. I can't applaud BPS enough, top to bottom, secretaries, the technology, your team, Casey, outstanding. Amanda, Danica, your team's about outstanding. They just did the lift, and that's why we're in a good place. It was mentioned already, but I'll say if you're watching this somewhere, every school in North Dakota is doing this. If you don't know, you should be contacting your school because it is not just us, it's everybody. But I will say, too, I'll give credit to Superintendent Bachmeyer. He's helped lead us through this, all schools, and he's right when his appraisal is it's going to be bumpy for a while. We are going to feel little bumps for a while. It is not going to be normal. It might give us all year to not feel normal, as we did with Power School. When you have something 25 years, that doesn't smooth out really fast. But I do think he's right. It's a better product, and give it time. We'll be in a better place. We're just in that start of that little J curve. We will definitely see improvement. So, yeah, really thank my team. Well done.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Fosnap. Thank you, all three of you. Yeah, as you guys go, I just want to reiterate, too, Casey Mueller said this a minute ago, but the rollout's been good, not perfect, but getting better all the time. And the wizard of IT at BPS, Mueller himself, I know it's going to keep getting better, so I appreciate you. And educators and parents that are slow to adopt to techie, you're addressing one of them right here. I got the app today, though, so I'm rolling. I've known it's coming. Slow to adapt, I'm on, so I appreciate it. Thank you. I've logged in. I'm official. I needed a lot of help, but I got there. Call the call center. Thank you. Item 4 on tonight's agenda is public comment. The Bismarck School Board recognizes the central role that parents play in the education of their children and support active parent involvement in the educational process. Board's practice of public comment reflects and aligns with policy BCBA and the spirit of its intent. For classroom issues, it's best to follow with the chain of command here at BPS, which would start with your teacher, your school principal, the assistant superintendent, and ultimately the superintendent. For district issues, please reach out to Dr. Fosnot's office. If you do speak tonight, we simply ask that you be responsible, be helpful, and be respectful. Our BPS students deserve to have adults model the expectations that we also have for our students. Groups are urged to select one spokesperson. Individuals will be limited to no more than 4 minutes and be notified with 30 seconds remaining to conclude their remarks. The board does not debate issues as presented, but will take such matters under advisement. With that, please stand and approach the podium if you'd like to speak tonight. State your name on the agenda item you'll be speaking about. Good evening.
Good evening, Board President, School Board Member, Superintendent. I'm speaking on item 6B tonight. I understand we are going to take another swing, or at least propose take another swing at the school bond issue. I also understand that there has been some reductions in asks from the taxpayers. I'm standing here tonight saying that's not enough. We have heard before, and I've stood up here before and discussed it, we've had 4 schools, Title I schools in our district that pleaded with you guys 4 years ago to have their buildings have safety upgrades and ADA upgrades, and that fell on deaf ears. I understand we've had a large turnover with this group since that ask was asked of you. But unfortunately, the taxpayer has to pay for that. That's not fair. With the economy the way it is, we do have families in our community that live from paycheck to paycheck. We have elderly people that lived on fixed income. I have to ask you guys, where do we stop? In the last several years, I've seen very few cuts within public education. We have families in the community that have a lot of wants, and they have needs. And every paycheck, you have to make decisions on what you're going to pay, what you're not, and what you can go without. And I understand we have building maintenance, but us folks that own homes, we have building maintenance too. And we plan for that. You guys are supposed to represent us. I don't feel represented. If you guys would have put some wants on the back burner to make sure those 4 schools were taken care of, I would probably have a different tone tonight. But to keep saying it's for the kids, I struggle with that. I really do, guys. Where do we draw the line? Because I remember a couple years ago, we cut the 4th grade orchestra program out of Bismarck Public Schools. How do we make those decisions? How do we pick winners and losers? I've been paying attention for quite a few years, guys, and it is a struggle to keep up. We cut programs, but then we add to others. We cut positions, and we add different ones. At some point, you guys have to say, here's our budget. This is what we're going to operate within. We can't keep going to the taxpayer and saying we want more. We can't keep running campaigns, fill the bus. We can't, it's like wants. Where do we draw the line, guys? I think that's a hard question. I think that's a hard question that we need to ask at this table, because for far too long, there's a lot of high fives, there's a lot of back pats, there's a lot of rainbows and unicorns. We need to get down to the nitty gritty and start having those tough conversations publicly. We need to start having conversations about transparency. We need to start having conversations about accountability. You guys operate under coherent governance. So a lot of people don't understand what that actually means, but you govern kind of from the outside. You govern with policy. But you also set the budget and you approve the budget. And that's where the power of being an elected official lies with you to represent the people, is that budget and that ability to adhere to that budget. So I'm a no vote because I don't feel you guys have, like I said, you've picked winners and losers. And at some point, we have to go back and make sure that those people that we didn't serve are taken care of before we start creating more wants and fulfilling those wants. So I ask you guys to look in the mirror, and I ask you to start talking outside your social circles.
30 seconds.
Start having conversations with people that you typically would not have conversations with, so you can get some different viewpoints. I appreciate the time.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. On our agenda tonight, next up would be item 5, monitoring district operations. 5A is R1 mega result. Dr. Fosnot.
Board members, I'd like to bring up Dr. Johnson to present the mega report. Remember, this is the mega report. This is the big one. That's not really the largest report by pages or content. It is just some of the big indicators. So those that are watching. And I will preempted some of the data in here. I know we have We have shared concerns in the past, like some of it's over a year old. Part of that is when we can get the data. So we take it out of ND Insights and we provide you the most recent data we can, even though we're still waiting for some of our 25, 26 data to show up. It will be in the fall like it normally is, and we'll report that next year at this time. But just so you know where we get it from. But so, Dr. Johnson, thank you.
Thank you, President Eastgate, members of the board, Dr. Fosnot. So yeah, mega big, the overall picture. What do we want for outcomes for our students? So a lot of these are rooted in graduation, completer rates, looking at students' engagement and seeing themselves in their future with career exploration and diving in and owning their education and how they're able to do that and see themselves in the work they do. So out of this, we have 7 of 9 indicators demonstrating reasonable progress, 2 demonstrated reasonable progress with exception. We can talk about those a little bit, as some of those were some near miss margins, and none we marked that failed to make reasonable progress. So 4-year graduation at 87%, that's up 3 points from the previous year. However, that sometimes ebbs and flows. We still are dealing with some dynamics, I think, from the fallout of COVID. I know it seems like a long time ago, but these, when we're looking at graduation data, especially a year or so old, and those students were at what grade level, like when the COVID happened and during that year and a half where we had that. But again, 3 points above the North Dakota average. As I was told when I first came and returned to their state, and came here to Bismarck, North Dakota, Dr. Townsend said, Ben, 1 in 9 students attends Bismarck Public Schools. So goes Bismarck, so goes the rest of the state. So whenever we are at or above a state average, that is incredibly hard statistics to work at beating yourself. And so I say that from a positive standpoint because whenever we're at, near, and especially when we're above, I see those as great things. Is it still good enough? No, there's real faces behind that. That's still 1 in 9 students that's not reaching graduation on time. But we also look at completer rate. And so in that, we also can value a GED. I've had the pleasure, as many of you have too, as you oversee GED at the Adult Learning Centers. We administer that program. Mr. Calvoda used to be Mr. Haroff, and again, you'll see students who will graduate at 16 with their GED. That GED test is a very difficult test. It is no longer maybe when I grew up what the GED was. It is high academic mathematics and high standards. So again, 93% of students there, up 2 points, 1 point above North Dakota. Again, slightly below our target by 2 points, but again, at 93, pretty good. Post-secondary enrollment. We value, and how we present this is that we do value post-secondary enrollment. 69% of our students, 632 out of 922, again, a couple years past because it looks for a previous graduate. So again, as Dr. Fosnut said, we look at the data in the year that it's reported, but sometimes that data trails because you want to see that did students actually enroll in a campus and in higher ed. But we also know that those that enter the workforce or enter the military service, again, if they are finding the right path, that's the right selection for that. So again, it may not be 100%, so 69% might not be a bad number, as we have a target at 70%, I believe, is our target, so just 1% below that. Committed engagement, we're flat with the North Dakota average, but we fell a few points, and we're below our 55% that we desire. We have to look at what does that commitment mean. We'll also say that we have had the state ask us to really work hard to get that high rate of return. The harder we work at getting students to fill that out, sometimes we're getting some of those students that are less engaged actually filling it out. So sometimes our data ebbs and flows there again. However, there's a conversation and a story behind that all of our educators and our schools can engage in, and how we can meet students' needs and that they can see themselves in that. Community service, just below that 40% at 39.92. That's an example of one where we marked making reasonable progress with exception because technically we're below and we slipped a little bit, but we're just barely below that target. It's a rounding error. If I had 8 pennies, I could round up, perhaps, and however you want to look at the math of that. But again, we've also changed some verification methods. So it used to be self-reported. Now we're looking that there are forms to be filled out, so then students have to fill out the form. They might be doing the service. They might be engaging in that, but now there's a little bit more work that it's taken versus taking someone at face value. So again, that maybe was part of that dip when Ms. Nelson and I were talking about that with counselors and other services. Career exploration, we're being really intentional. Many of you may know we did some like workforce regional in our city in Burley County. And so we're doing activities trying to ensure that students can see not only a future for themselves, but a future here in central North Dakota if they wish to stay. Where are the jobs that are in demand and where's their opportunity? So again, whether it's job shadowing or going and seeing career exploration, seeing that opportunity. So I'm really happy about that number as over 96, nearly 97% of our students verified that. Capstone experience completion, again, looked at a large jump from that, but again, that's looking at how we codify and clarify whether or not something meets that need. We used to have a very restrictive definition. We're looking at more in line with what the state had as their definition for that. So long-term connections we know matter. We talk about it, and it's not an exact report, but I allude to it here, and I've shared with this board and with the public. When your students remain, when you stay in our community, and we talk about dosage, and I know Ms. Presky over the years, this has been a stat that you and I have talked about, as well as other former members. When students are part of the BPS community from 6th grade through 12th grade, and we kind of say, hey, you got about 10 days, you can move away, come back, not start the year, but come here early on. But if you're part of our community from that middle school through high school experience and you don't leave, you have a 96.72% chance of graduating on time. That is a tremendous stat. When you're part of our community and you stay part of our community, we, the school, the parent, and the students, and all the educators can be part of that wraparound partnership and support. We know that there's other dynamics out there, and it doesn't mean that we don't care about the son, daughter, the student that moves in here. Everyone's someone's son, daughter, grandchild, and we want to take care of them. However, when we have the supports and systems in place, we know that we can have really good outcomes for students. And respectfully to that end, we also know that some students, through their special education needs, stay in a program, and technically they count against us as a graduate because they're choosing to stay part of their educational rights until they're up to 21 years and engage in that. So again, we know at that 96.72, that is something I am proud, and I will say I truly believe we are the best school district in the Upper Plains, and that is one stat that I will put out there. When you're part of it and we can engage with you and the parents, we can have good outcomes for our students. We know that we want to engage students in critical thinking and creative problem solving. Again, mega, large, big scale things. We want kids to be critical thinkers. We want them to be creative. We want them to see themselves in their community, to be serving their community, to see their school and the community as the first place of service. So we know all those things are wrapped together. We see a lot of opportunity, again, for students to be involved and see themselves in their education. We also know that to that end, we have to put systems in place. We continue to work with Academic Alert. We do some grad roundup, and the whole point is we're trying to make sure that you're on pace to graduate and having those conversations so it's not a surprise we get too far off. We also know that that work is done with teachers and relationships with students starting in preschool, kindergarten, all the way through middle school and high school. And again, there are teams that come together to talk about how we can support the behavior, social, emotional, and academic needs of all of our students, no matter the wonderful opportunities that they have and skills they have, and or some places where they may find some challenge. That being said, we definitely know there's some needed further conversation about how we can strengthen that emotional, cognitive, and behavioral engagement with our students so that they find it meaningful, that they feel a sense of belonging, and that they can persist when things get tough. That being said, I hope that BPS really takes a look at this and sees that we have readiness, we have a lot of great outcomes, we tend to be above the state average or right at the state average in many of those broad categories, but we also want to compete against ourselves, just like in athletics or in activities. I want to beat myself. I want to be the better version of that, and I think that's how BPS approaches this. It's not good enough to just be good. We want to make sure that we are offering the best opportunity for each and every student. With that, I will stand up for any questions at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson, on that mega result, which, as you said, is a big one. We appreciate you and the work that goes into it before you show up here as well. Board members, questions? Ms. Peterson.
I don't know if I have any questions. I think that this is always one that we talk a little bit about. The word mega is just that it's these large scale kind of state results. And so more of my question is more of just a food for thought. And I think that we brought it up at various kind of retreats and wondering about the timing of some of these results policies. This might be one that if we moved a little bit down the road to like January, we might be able to then have a little bit more timely and see 25, 26. So it's just a note that I'm kind of like writing for myself as I know we were doing some of those other results indicators and getting more accurate data for each indicator. This one at being state, just there might be a time where we would maybe have a little bit more timely if we moved it just back a little bit. But either way, I agree with a lot of what you said, Dr. Johnson, is that these are good results. They are something that when you're taking at a holistic look of the entire district as a whole, you're going to see kind of results like this where moving just a little bit is actually a significant change on both ends, right? And so so with that, I think that I would move to accept the report, R1 mega result, as making reasonable progress with noted exceptions.
We do have a motion. I see Mr. Auckland. I see you have your light on. Do you have some commentary?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for the report. I really appreciate you pointing out that stat of 96.72%. That's phenomenal. And also your message of that growth mindset, improving oneself. That really means a lot to me and something that I help with a lot of students that I mentor. It's a wonderful message. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Auckland.
Ms. Presky?
Yeah, I'm just because of, I guess, the complexity of this report, when I look at the items that were on that making reasonable progress with exception, they're very close to meeting what our targets are. I guess I would like to see us consider accepting the R1 mega result with accepting it as making reasonable progress.
Okay. Are you asking us to consider that, or are you making that motion? Ms. Presky?
Well, I don't know how the process works if we put down if we vote on the first motion to vote on a revised motion.
Listen, Dr. Sheridan, our parliamentarian.
There was not a second. So right now, the current motion by Ms. Peterson could fail without a second and die.
That'd be my reading as well.
And you could entertain another motion that has now been not put on the table as well.
If I could add to that, Ms. Presky, we have talked about this in the past, over the past years, actually, different things that we look at when we look at making reasonable progress and making reasonable progress with an exception. A lot like you just mentioned is that some of them too are indicators and our goals. And I'm proud of our district for doing this, but oftentimes we have stretch goals. We have growth goals, and sometimes they even can be idealistic, right? Like 100% graduation rate. Isn't that what we all want? I mean, those kind of goals. And then sometimes we know the reality is we don't always hit those. And so I think it's for us as a board sometimes with that letter of the law to the spirit of the law as well. And again, sometimes it's hard to define, and maybe we also have to ask our professionals in the academic world to maybe tell us if that's what some of these are when we have those. So I just want to point that out, that we have done those in the past, that oftentimes if there's a stretch goal, at the end of the day, the board gets to make that decision. Ms. Peterson, I don't know if you had any more commentary from your motion. I'm certainly not trying to take it away from you. So.
Nope, I can go either way. I think that, when I look at sort of some of the recommendations, they had noted some exceptions, but I don't disagree with what Ms. Presky kind of considered. So I'll just let the new motion stand.
I think the only thing you didn't ask is if there was a second.
Yeah, I'm going to. Okay. Do I have a second to Ms. Peterson's motion? Seeing none, do we have a second to Ms. Presky's motion? Dr.
Second.
Jonas?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Dr. Johnson?
Dr. Jonas,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Ms. Presky,
Yes.
Mr. Auckland,
Yes.
Mr. Eastgate.
Yes,
Motion passes with making reasonable progress.
correct. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Thank you, board members, for talking that one through. Appreciate it. Next up, underneath item 5B, GC1 board purpose. This is where we'll have a public reading. of the board purpose, as well as board members will have a chance to make a recommendation to retain or amend it, and then also if you find us in compliance with exception or out of compliance. Here is the public reading of GC1 board purpose. The Bismarck Public School Board represents, leads, and serves the community and holds itself accountable to the citizens by committing to act in their best interests and by ensuring that all board and district action is consistent with law and the board's policies. The board's purpose is to assure that the district achieves the results described in the board's results policies and that it operates according to the values expressed in the board's operational expectations policies. It's the end of the reading of GC1 board purpose. Board members, I would entertain any conversation, discussion, motions, wherever you'd like to take us. Ms. Presky.
I would move to retain GC1 board purpose.
I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Dr. Johnson.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Ms. Presky,
Yes.
Mr. Auckland,
Yes.
Dr. Drunas,
Yes.
Mr. Eastgate.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
And I would move that the board find itself in compliance with GC1 board purpose.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. Dr. Johnson.
Ms. Presky,
Yes.
Mr. Auckland,
Yes.
Dr. Drunas,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Eastgate.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. On the agenda now, item 6, matters reserved for board action. 6A is initial resolution for general obligation school building bonds. Dr. Fosnot.
Yeah, before I open that up, for Dr. Jonas, Mr. Auckland, you'll get comfortable with that. That's a kind of a wonky procedural issue. The policies and or coherent governance policies, and then keeping them, retaining them, and then or not retaining them, amending them, and then also holding yourself in compliance or not. So that'll get more comfortable, I'm sure, with time. So. I do, if you don't mind, before I get into my recommendations, you guys take action on these. Are you okay if I just share a couple thoughts before we get
Yes,
into these?
please.
Okay. Mr. Barnard, could you bring up my slides I emailed you earlier, 18, 19? Yeah, like the first one. Yeah, that one right there, 18. Yep. I just wanted to bring out for everybody, because obviously you guys have talked about this. We've had a retreat, we've had a workshop. Our team's been working on this for months before we get to this point, and the decision to move forward with a question in November is not taken lightly. I want people to know that. It's not something that just happened because it wasn't decided the day after the election. It's been decided after months of work. And I think what I would like to just hit on here for people that maybe aren't aware of it, maybe they're new to the community or they weren't really tuned in the last time we did this, just why are we doing this work? And I think Mr. Jensen have actually hit upon a couple things that are really important, is we want to keep students safe. A lot of the work that we have in the plan is about keeping students safe, and some of the schools that he referenced are Title I schools need some improvements. You are aware of those. You support those. Our Operational Excellence Committee last year supported those, and getting those done is important. So putting them off longer and saying no to them, kind of as he said no in the past, saying no again doesn't solve the problem. The other thing is better learning spaces. I would tell you, as I walk around the district, and when you get a chance to go visit schools, we have exceptional schools, top to bottom. We have great schools. I will hold them up to any, but I also will tell you a school built in the 1940s or 50s is not the same school as one built in the 2020s, okay? And not that every school needs to be exactly like that. We don't expect everything new and shiny, but there are some standards. There's some learning area standards. There's some heating and cooling and just the environment that our kids are learning in, that kids that are now participating in school in the older parts of town, they're lacking. They're lacking some of those things, and improving some of our are areas like libraries and PE and health education locations, or multi-purpose room locations, which not only support PE and lunch, but also after-school program. I think that's still important, and you're going to see that in this, what we call November 26 plan. Expanding student opportunities is still something that we have talked about, and we still need to do work, like, again, after-school programming. But I think we talked about last time centralized kitchen. It's not, we don't talk about a school, but the concept of a centralized kitchen and bringing more locally sourced, locally grown food items to our kids when we want our kids to have the best healthy options in front of them when they have breakfast or lunch in our schools is really an important issue. It's a health issue for our kids, and I don't think we take that lightly. And then the last key concept that we're bringing forward tonight with these resolutions is just preserving the investment. This community, as he said, Mr. Jensen said tonight, has invested a lot of energy, money, investment into their schools. And I think it is important that we do our very best to preserve it. We need to take care of it. And are we perfect? No, I think, like he said, it takes work for a family to take care of their home and plan and make sure that you replace the shingles when they're supposed to, and replace I call over H.A. Thompson & Sons and say, come over, I need to fix my furnace or air conditioner. That takes effort, and it's hard for families. But I will say, when you have over 3 million square feet of floors and 2 million square feet of roofs and nearly 30-some facilities, that is difficult to do, and particularly difficult when finances are constrained. And I would tell you, they're always been under a little bit of constraint. Schools have not had open checkbooks ever. We just can't go print money. And that constraint has gotten tougher over the last few years. So we don't get to go borrow money from a bank. We don't get to go walk in and just say, hey, we'd like X number of dollars. Could we do that? When we borrow money, we have to ask voters. And that's exactly what we're doing. It'd be like going for a home equity loan on your house to say, hey, we need to do this, Mom or Dad. Or I'd actually say, hey, Lisa, do you want to do this? We'd be asking, like, where do we go to the bank to do this? That's exactly what we're doing with voters. And so I think that's best done. I've said this before. I think the best thing to do is ask voters. That is our job. That's what we need to do. We need to answer the questions and present our rationale, and that begins again tonight for the November election. I'm sure people will talk about the investment because, as Mr. Jensen said again, taxes are hard, right? Inflation's real. You drive by a gas pump and it's $3.99. That's challenging, okay? But I think if you go to 19 for me, Mr. Barnard, we have done work to bring down the cost of this, hearing what voters said in June. So we are dropping that. You may say, well, Jeff, from what we proposed in June for $100,000, that's only $6. Yep, it is only $6. But I would tell you, I thought that the proposal we presented in June and the one we're presenting now has as affordable option as any school in the state has offered their voters. We are doing this for a much cheaper financial impact on taxpayers than any of the big, large schools have done over the last 5 years. Significantly less expensive. And, for an average home in Bismarck, that is about $400,000. We are talking about an annual tax impact to accomplish work across 23 sites, I believe, if I get that number right, 23 sites. That really is important work. As you heard Mr. Jensen today, this is work that's been put off too long. We got to get it done. We got to make tough decisions, yes, but the monies to do this are not going to be coming from classroom services. So we got to find it somewhere. Is it worth $170 a year for an average home in Bismarck to see these improvements in your school? That's what I would say is the question in front of voters. But your decision tonight is to approve these 3 next resolutions, and if that's the case, we will begin to march forward informing the voters and the patrons of Bismarck Public Schools so they're well informed before we get to November.
Board members, and before any motion is brought forward at all, maybe just a chance for everybody to have a comment if they have a wish to do so. Board Member Presky.
Yeah, thank you. I think you hit on a lot of important points there that we did take a look at the dollar figure here, reduce the dollar figure, knowing that we could do some of the work with the building fund. I think it's really important for folks at home to know that we're really restricted in when we can ask for this, and that's done by the legislature. So we can only put forward a bond every 2 years in either the primary or the general election. So it either happens this year or we wait another 2 years, which just impacts things even more. And I think the other thing that I'd like to note is that we need a 60% threshold, which is a incredibly high threshold. Now, I see the vote in the primary. Part of my job is I work with elections and around those that are running our elections at the local level. And so it's historically known that primaries have lower voter turnout. We still got 98.68% of the vote, which tells me that there's a high community desire to support this. And so I believe we absolutely have to put this in front of our voters again to address the necessary updates and additions that this community needs and our students deserve. The other thing that's really stuck with me is 23 sites. It's not a new school. This is really affecting a huge number of facilities in our school district. And essentially, a student going through the different schools that they go through from elementary to middle to high school is more than likely going to see the impacts of what we're trying to accomplish here. So I totally support going to the voters again and asking them to support us on this. As far as why we've waited, I feel that we as a board, or maybe not we, but those of us that have been on the board in the past, really tried to be very conservative with our budgets, not raising any property taxes, and taking that action with ourselves, making that decision, and keeping our mill levies flat. But there comes a point in time when you look at it, if it's going to take us 20 years to get these projects done, you can't just continually try to chip away at it. And I think I've always had the position that if you're going to make a large decision like this, that the voters should have a say. They deserve to have the say. So instead of a board deciding to increase mills by 10 mills here or there, or slowly work at it, I firmly believe that this is a community decision and deserves the community's voice. So,
Thank you, Ms. Presky. Ms. Peterson.
Thanks, Ms. Presky, and thanks, President Eastgate. And I won't belabor some of what I wanted to say were discussed by Dr. Fosnat and by Ms. Presky. But one of the things that I also want to address is that I think as a board, when it's maybe brought up as whether or not the district has scaled back or had made other cuts, I just want to say that every single time, whether we're talking at a budget workshop or when we are in this room, we have asked the district to scale back, and Dr. Fosnat and his team to really look at efficiency of operations, looking at our contracted services, look at how we are just like working overall. And I think that there's only so many ways that you can stretch a dollar. And I think that when 85% of our budget is on salary and benefits, that the cuts that we make, unless we're starting to kind of cut back how many teachers that we are employing, the aides that we are serving our kids, there's only so many different ways that you can stretch and be fiscally responsible before we're not actually meeting the needs. And I think that the work that we put into place throughout the community forums and throughout the committee work and really public public comment, not just what we heard tonight, but just public engagement over the last like several years, is that I think that we kept hearing that the public actually did want these things. These weren't just what the public wanted, but what the public felt that they deserved for their kids. And so in a lot of these cases, these are needs, not just wants, and that they wanted that this board and each other, I suppose, like as they have to kind of make that decision through the vote, that these were things that were kind of non-negotiable, that these were things that they expected to have kind of equitable access to through whichever doors that you walk through, whether you're walking through a Title I school or our brand new buildings. They wanted that for their students. And so I feel that as we've really scaled back, not only just slightly for what we're asking for because we were able to meet some of those needs, that's kind of what we've been asking the last several years, and you just don't do it overnight. And to Danelle's point is, if we don't ask today, the costs are only going to go up, the needs are only going to get greater, what we want for our kids is only going to go up, so we owe it to our community to give it one more shot. This year, while we have the numbers that we do, in order to decide whether or not they're able to kind of meet that threshold.
Thank you. Sure.
Sorry.
Nope.
I'm only going to respond because your comment about the budget. Let me just, for sake, it's in my annual report, but I'll mention it here. Is you know this already, but we trimmed $3 million out of our expenditure budget this year during the year, like on the fly. We constricted $3 million. So I think that probably goes unnoticed by most people, but I think that's the work you're asking us to do.
Thank you. Dr. Jonas.
Yeah, you know, as one of the new members on this board, I think it was important that I went back and looked at the work that the previous board did, and I looked at what we're asking the public to support, and I think I did a very thorough job, and I don't see anything that is, to be honest, not necessary. And also, since I'm the old one on the board, I'm on a fixed income. I don't want to pay any more taxes than anybody else. But I look at my own grandkids. They were at Solheim this last year, and that was teaching in a portable is not good for anybody. More so than anything, just you're not involved with the school. So I think we have so many schools involved. I think it's very important that we support this. And second, I looked at the mill levies that will be required. And we're below Fargo, we're below West Fargo, we're below Grand Forks, we're below Williston. So I think it was a prudent decision. And I think the tipping point for me was, more so than anything, nothing's getting cheaper. If we don't do it now, when will we do it? And then the last point I'd make is, why not put it in front of the public where more people are going to vote? Then we're really going to know if the public's behind this, yes or no. In a primary, I think we had 17,000 or whatever. There'll be more of this, and we're going to find out if the public's really behind this. So I want people to know that as a new board member, that's how I looked at it, and I think it's a prudent decision.
Thank you, Dr. Jonas. Any other comments? I would just share a few. I think, we're going to get asked, we have been asked by community members as far as putting it back, and I just say that community members have a privilege and in my opinion, a duty to vote on all things that come in front of us as voters in North Dakota. And they have the opportunity to vote yes or no. I think as board members, we also have a duty. You guys have done a great job of talking about what that duty looks like. And for me, I always just say our duty is to students, educators, families, and overall just our whole community, because schools are such a heart of a community. And so I do believe it's our duty to bring this in front of them again for all the reasons you guys just laid out. I just think it's the right thing to do as school board members. Also, we've talked a little bit about some of the time frame and some of the other schools that had pressing needs, and I just want to make the note that no school has been put on a back burner, picked on, or not cared about by this board or the previous board. We've continually asked questions and tried to do what's best with what we can, as we talked about, stretching $1 year by year. And unfortunately, sometimes the timing doesn't work to be able to address some of the things that we all wish we could right away. If we could snap our fingers and wave that magic wand, we certainly would. So we've looked at as a board and as a district what else we could do if we didn't have this bond, and we've talked about it, and they've done the math. I'm going to say Dr. Scher and Dr. Fosnot getting together, and 23 years to do it all. through a different alternative way of getting this done. And to me, that's just not good enough for our community. Again, we're still, even if we would pass this bond, as Dr. Jonas just pointed out, we're still the smallest amount of mills assessed for a big school in this entire state. It's a big deal. And it's because, as Ms. Presky talked about, we've continually tried to be very fiscally responsible. We've tried to be and continue to try to be good stewards of our own and all the rest of the taxpayers' money for what we're trying to do. Again, all that money being pledged, being used for educators, kids, families, and our community. I just want to keep hitting that because that's where this is going. Those are the 4 categories that it is going to, which really, just like we said, it applies to 23 schools. I believe it applies to our entire community in some way, shape, or form because we know how much use our facilities get. With that, board members, I would open up to any motions.
Well, let me give
Dr.
you
Fosnot,
let me give
please.
you tee up the first one. The first resolution is the key resolution. That's your initial resolution for general obligation bonds. That is, in essence, your resolution saying you would like to go to the voters to ask for this debt. So that's the first one. So let's start there.
Ms. Presky.
I would move that we approve the initial resolution for general obligation school building bonds in an amount not to exceed $116,500,000.
We have a motion, Dr. Jonas.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Dr. Johnson.
Mr. Auckland,
Yes.
Dr. Jonas,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Ms. Presky,
Yes.
Mr. Eastgate.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, your next one is the resolution to put it in the ballot. So you have not only the resolution, but your Exhibit A, which should be in your packet, is the ballot language, which I know we'll share multiple forms later. But this puts it on the ballot.
Board members. Mr. Auckland.
I would move to approve the resolution submitting the question of approving the initial resolution for general obligation school building bonds to the voters of the district at the November 3rd, 2026 primary election.
General election.
General election, I'm sorry.
Sorry, we have that wrong. Yep.
Ms. Peterson.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Dr. Johnson.
Dr. Jonas,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Ms. Presky,
Yes.
Mr. Auckland,
Yes.
Mr. Eastgate.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, and your last one is your application for state school construction loan funds. You did this last time, failed, so you have to reapply. We'll be in the next application window. So, yeah, if you choose to wish to do that. I would recommend that. It's very cheap loan funds or funds for the school.
Board members. Ms. Presky.
I would move that we approve the resolution authorizing submission of an application to the North Dakota Department of Public Instruction for participation in the state school construction loan program.
Dr. Jonas.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Dr. Johnson.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Ms. Presky,
Yes.
Mr. Auckland,
Yes.
Dr. Jonas,
Yes.
Mr. Eastgate.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Thank you, Dr. Fosnot, for working through that with us. On the agenda, 6D, 2026, 2027 board appointments. We did have a chance to discuss and go over these at our workshop. We have the recommended appointments on there. Board members, what are your wishes? Ms. Peterson.
I would move to appoint Tony Auckland to the Bismarck Public School Foundation Board. I would also appoint Dan Eastgate to the Bismarck Community Bowl Authority. I would assign board members to the strategic plan priority area portfolios as follows. I would take learning excellence, Rod Jonas for personal excellence, Danelle Presky as operational excellence, and Tony Auckland as environmental excellence.
Mr. Auckland.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none. Dr. Johnson.
Ms. Presky,
Yes.
Mr. Auckland,
Yes.
Dr. Jonas,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Eastgate.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. And item 7, we come to the consent agenda. With the noted earlier changes, what are the wishes of the board? Mr. Auckland.
I would move to consent the agenda.
To approve the
consent agenda.
We have a motion. And Dr. Jonas,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Dr. Johnson.
Mr. Auckland,
Yes.
Dr. Jonas,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Ms. Presky,
Yes.
Mr. Eastgate.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. And item 8, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Fosnot.
Always one of the good times of the year. I always like sending out reports. You know, I like colorful documents to send out to the community. My intent with this one, just so anybody watching, this is kind of my annual report. It's a little bit of review of where we were and a little bit of casting a focus on where we are going to be going for the year. So for those, I should be going out. Heck, it's probably out right now. A social media link. I'd encourage the patrons of the community to take a look at it and review the report. But you'll see first just a letter from me to the community about what we did well this last year, what some of our challenges were, and maybe where we plan to head in the future. I added this year a new page, which was page 3, which was you, the school board. I didn't have that in the last 2 years. I don't know why. I didn't think you needed a page, but I think you do need a page. So I did, because it was really a report about last year, I did include the last year's board, but then also acknowledge Dr. Jonas and Mr. Auckland for being added to the board this year, and some information about the strategic plan. So just so you know, I did take a more condensed report on the next few pages too. It was a little bit tighter last year, and one of my people said, a little hard to read. You had so many facts and bits in there. We'll spread it out. So the first page is just about our kids. One thing I'd like to note is you can see that our spring average daily membership, which is the total number of kids we had in school, it's kind of what we use for state funding purposes, is down this year. Not to say we didn't know that, though, because if you look right below that in the RSP report, we knew last year, this year, we were going to see a dip. We might have a little bit of a year left, but then we're going to start seeing us come out of that. So hopefully we can see some growth in the community, and we know we're gaining 1,000 residents every year in Bismarck. So hopefully we can see us start to climb out of that. But it's a nice, steady increase, which I think we can manage. I have a few other tidbits on there, but I'll go to the next page. The second page is about achievement. You'll see just some broad results from the ND Insights dashboard, which anybody wants to look at, ND Insights, Google it, and you will find a plethora of information about every school in the state. We are, as we say on many of the reports, we are outpacing the state in our NDSA results for math and reading, or ELA. So that's a good thing. You'll see our ACT results, and please remember ACT, not every kid's taking it anymore. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but when we're comparing our best, they are ranking right up with the rest of the state. As you saw today, I put the 4-year graduation rate in, and then at the bottom, I simplified this a little bit this year just because I think people want to know how many kids are taking dual credit by grade, and then also how many kids are taking AP by grade, and then what their pass rate is. The AP test is hard. The AP test is harder than passing a dual credit course, and you can see that. But still, a 75% pass rate in AP courses is really good. That's well done for our kids. So, and to our instructors for helping our kids get there. On the last page, you have some of the business operations, you might say. This is reflective of the 25-26 budget. So you can see last year we did collect $220 million. We spent $217 million. And I would tell you, again, that 217 is because we had a budget that was pretty flat, like exactly flat. We've trimmed some dollars out of there during the year. Is $3 million a lot out of 217? Probably not. I don't know if you define a lot, but it takes work. When you're talking about people, and I think to Ms. Peterson, your comment is, it's hard to save $3 million in paper clips, right? It doesn't happen. You have to make real programmatic changes, and those are hard, but we're working on that. I would also go down, if you compared last year's report to this year, I think you'll find that we have less people. We are doing it with less people. So again, about the idea of making hard cuts and constricting, we are doing that. And we will continue to do that as opportunity arises. But I would like to point out teacher retention. This is something Dr. Jones and I have mentioned. We have a working group on teacher retention and keeping the high-quality, amazing teachers that we have. A 94% retention rate for our teachers is a really good number. We were 95 last year, we're 94 this year, but I know schools, I just talked to a colleague from a Class A school in North Dakota that's under 90, like in the 80s. We are not seeing that same pinch, and I think it's because of how we respect our educators, we talk to them, we want to know what they're doing, we want to know how they believe we can make our schools better, and hopefully we take care of them. And I know we can do better, but they're really important. And some of the other data on that slide, I think I always bring up the number of lunches and breakfasts because we're the largest restaurant in town by far. And just the sheer number of miles this year, because I love the trip, Artemis 2 to the moon, just how many miles we drive would get you almost nearly to the moon and back twice. That's a lot of amazing Magic School Bus trips to get to the moon and back. So that's a lot of miles. And lastly, I will not go over this, but people can read it. Just worth noting about, there's just a couple things about what we see in our future of our schools, planning for it, a little bit of kind of redigestion about our transportation changes. I made some references to bell times because bell times are changing. So some people don't. Well, you shouldn't be late for school because if you show up at the time you did last year, you should be on time. But it's changing a little bit. And then just making sure we have an article about preparing our kids for the future and some broad discussions anymore about AI, screen time, technology, and how it's affecting our kids and letting people know that we're having those same conversations. So you're not alone. So I give you this report. I hope you enjoy it. I hope the community enjoys it and have me a little more in touch of what's going on in their schools.
Board members, any questions for Dr. Fosnot? Mr. Auckland?
I don't have any questions, just more commentary of really happy to see these numbers of graduation rates partnered with the numbers that Dr. Johnson brought as to how well our students are doing. That 96%, very excited to see that. And the dual credit in AP, what a lot of students are getting before they graduate high school really says a lot to what we're not only being able to offer, but their determination to succeed and do well. So I'm really thrilled to see that partnered with those numbers that we got in the mega report or mega result. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Auckland. Seeing no other commentary, all agenda items have been considered. I declare this meeting adjourned.